And my question relates to what role does the intellect have? Because I've been practicing what you teach every morning, and my brain is ready to jump in and solve the problem the way I used to solve the problem, which was with my intellectual ability. So my brain wants to figure out what happened and then come up with a plan for solving the problem.
Your brain or your intellect is your focusing mechanism, so it's important.
Okay.
But if you will, rather than trying to solve a problem which keeps the problem active, if you'll look for a solution. And it takes a little bit of feeling to realize that the vibrational properties of the problem and the solution are very different. And sometimes when you think you're actually thinking about a solution, you're not. You're railing against the problem. Mm-hmm. So it's about first sorting that out. You want to be solution-oriented. And in fact, that's a good thing for everyone to intend. And it's easy to do. It comes up several times in every day. Rather than feeling the need to identify the problem, to articulate the problem, to catalog the problem, and you said to even figure out how the problem got there.
Yes.
Because that's all
not helping.
Problem-oriented. That's all resistance-inducing. That's all slowing it down. That's all muddying the waters. That's all obscuring the path. That's all confusing the intellect. So the way your intellect becomes more clear is by not introducing so many details that just bog it down, by starting in more general places. And then sometimes all of you have had the experience of some condition that had your attention and got worse, and had your attention and got worse, and had your attention and got worse. Then you got distracted. Usually those conditions weren't very severe. They weren't life-threatening. They weren't something that you were giving, that you felt fear around, but they were conditions that were annoying. And then when something else got your attention, suddenly you realize that that condition had disappeared by lack of airplay. Everything unwanted would disappear by lack of airplay. But you got to understand when you're given it what you're doing. In other words, the universe doesn't hear what you say. The universe hears what you mean. So it doesn't matter if you put a fake smile on your face and use words that sound better to those who are listening in. It's what you mean that the universe is responding to. So you have to find some way of de-emphasizing vulnerability while you emphasize your feeling of invincibility, your feeling of autonomy, your feeling of sure-footedness, your feeling of getting what you want. So we can shout at you all day, every day, and we do. We like doing it. You can have anything you want. You can be or do or have anything you want. You create your own reality. But then we have to add the words. But you got to figure out how you're doing that. You got to start noticing what you've been thinking and feeling and what's coming. And then if what's coming doesn't please you, then you got to start thinking and feeling different. And we don't know anybody who can stop thinking about something because you're thinking about the thing that you're not going to think about. There's no exclusion. So what you want to do is start thinking about something that feels better. But what trips you up is that when you try to think about something that feels better when something that you don't want is what's really active, you're too much on the subject. So when you've got something you don't want, you say, okay, I'll think about its opposite. We say, not likely. Not likely. There's too much momentum going. But you could think about something else that you want, something else that's pleasing, that's not on the subject. Here are strong words. When you no longer do that thing you do that keeps you from being where you want to be, you'll be where you want to be. When you stop doing that thing, now that sounds negatively oriented, but you can't keep offering a vibration that has caused the creation of something without continue. In other words, got to stop doing that. How do you stop doing that? By starting to do something else. And by doing it first thing in the morning when it's not so likely that it's going to call you to where it is. You've got your best chance of finding a new feeling in the morning before the old feeling got revved up again. Because the old feeling went to sleep when you did. Don't wake it up. And sometimes a sensation, something wakes it up, a reminder from someone. But just do your best to let it sleep as long as it will. It's like that teenager. Let the teenager sleep. Let them sleep as long as possible. Helpful?
So it's the type of thoughts that I'm having about it, solution-oriented, as opposed to beating it over and over.
But hear us. Even the most well-intentioned person looking for the best solution-oriented thought about an existing problem is more likely to activate the problem than the solution because it already has momentum. So you're going to start on another subject or start on a non-subject.
Okay.
You don't mean to do it, but you pick up that stick. Every subject's two subjects, wanted and absence of wanted. And when you pick it up, you think you're talking about that end, but you're talking about the most practiced place that you are. So what you want to do is pick up a stick meaning another subject, that doesn't have that strong, polarized, unwanted end to it. Something that the universe can begin demonstrating to you. Our favorite story is about this. We were talking to a resistant person one day. You're not resistant. A resistant person one day who wasn't having any of what we were saying. I was on the telephone. Esther was still doing consultations many years ago. And so we wanted to distract her. She just wanted to talk about her problems, and she wanted us to speak clearly her solution. But even though we were doing that, she could not hear that. She argued with every solution we offered because her reality was so vivid. She was where she was. And she felt like she needed us to understand where she was before she could be someplace else. And so our solutions seemed nonsensical to her because she couldn't perceive past her own beliefs. And her own beliefs were completely based upon what she was living. So she couldn't get there from there. So we knew that distracting her was the only possibility of her moving any energy at all. So we said, let's talk about some other things. Like what? Let's talk about some things that you don't usually talk about. Why? Well, because if we talk about some things that you don't usually talk about, we have a better possibility of moving some energy. Like what? Well, like blue glass and butterflies and feathers. And she was just annoyed. I have issues that I would like to sort out with you. I do not want to talk about blue glass and butterflies and feathers. Come on. And we said, there are a lot of different kinds of blue glass. Some of them you can see through, some of them you can't. Some of them are textures, all kinds of different colors. I do not want to talk about blue glass. Butterflies. Butterflies are so wonderful. They're just about everywhere. They move. Their migration patterns are fascinating. Their patterns. Feathers. Feathers are very helpful. They come on all colors, on all kinds of birds. Click. No solution here. Trying to talk about things that don't matter to me. I want to talk about what matters to me. I want you to know how much pain I'm in, and I want you to get me out of it now. Can't get there from there. So Esther, who had received the conversation but had not really heard it, not really, and Jerry, who had not heard it at all, went to lunch. They were in La Jolla. Went to George's for lunch. And on their way, they parked the car at the La Valencia and started walking down the street. And all of a sudden, Esther felt, today, she would describe it as the path leads right into that shop. We must go there. Nothing can stop me from going in there, not even you, Jerry. So he followed her in. She went in to the back wall. And on the back wall in the shop, blue glass. a wall of blue glass, unlike anything that she'd ever seen. Every color, every texture, all kinds of beautiful things. Esther wasn't interested in blue glass, neither was Jerry, and Esther did not even make the association. Yeah, let's go eat. So off they went. They had lunch, and after lunch, they had already planned to go down to the cove where the rocks are, and favorite place on the planet. And so they're walking across the lawn, and a flurry of butterflies so intense they had to stop talking, which was not usual for them. They had to stop talking to keep from eating butterflies. So many butterflies just sort of made their way through them. Jerry liked to call them flutterbys. Flutterbys, look at the flutterbys. So now they're out of the clear. The butterflies fluttered by, and a little boy comes running across the lawn, looking at Esther like he knew her. Esther's looking at him. She can see he's intent on her. She does not know him. He comes up to her and hands her a feather. And then she realized that within a couple of hours from being stimulated to these three subjects that held no resistance, that had been activated just long enough that the universe could produce them, there they were. And so it's a good game to play. Find subjects that you know you don't hold resistance on and focus upon them and let the universe thrill you over and over and over again. You will be distracted from anything that is troubling you while you are thrilled with the power of the universe and